And hello, welcome to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. I'm Beth.
And I am Stacey. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning. We're ready to have a fun episode today, and we've got some really cool things to talk about.
We do, and we're ready for spring. We brought out the tulips.
That's right, the tulips are out. We got a spring quilt behind us.
Yes, we do.
We got our spring colors on.
Oh yeah, we're ready.
We are ready.
All right, yeah, that quilt is spectacular.
Yeah, thank you. That actually, I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it was made by one of the ladies that made it was my great-grandmother.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
I love yellow. Yellow's my favorite, then orange is my... Yellow and orange are right there about my favorite colors. What do you...
Purple is my all-time
Purple?
favorite color. I call it bulldog purple because I was a Harrisburg bulldog. And so it's that deep, dark purple. That's my favorite color. But sometimes I think my favorite color might be red. So it's a little bit of a tie.
Yeah, I like red, but my hair is usually either orange, red, or purple, kind of like in those hues. So it kind of clashes with me a little bit. I don't. But speaking of red,
yes,
we got a new magazine today.
Oh yeah.
This is the McCall's October edition, 1924, guys.
This one is
Look
a lot
at this.
earlier.
Look at this magazine. Look at her.
Oh wow.
Fall fashions.
1929. Is that what you said?
24.
24.
And it's
1924.
and look at that. 10 cents. Oh, speaking of purple nails.
Aww.
Yeah, 10 cents is
I have purple
cost.
nails too.
Of course you do. But this is an October edition of McCall's magazine, 1924, and it costs 10 cents.
Oh wow, she's
And look at
beautiful.
look at that red headpiece she's got on.
Yeah. So is this like a Spanish woman?
Yes, I mean it literally says the Spanish American girl, types of American beauty drawn.
Oh.
I'll tell you what though, this magazine, guys, is fantastic. It's not like normal magazines, Beth. It actually has their stories.
Oh.
They're short stories through this entire thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, like the Loring mystery. Yeah, and it's all, and the illustrations are fantastic. The happy ending. They're all stories.
So when this
the
magazine,
dressmaking novelist.
So I'm trying to envision like the staff of this magazine. What's the title of it? McCall's.
McCall's.
Like, can you imagine? It was probably New York City, the early 1920s, and they had this whole magazine staff of like an artist. Obviously, they had to have an artist that sketched all of these drawings.
Right.
They had to have authors and writers. A really talented staff of people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I was looking, I'm like, oh my goodness, those are actual stories that we've got here. Yeah. I can't put my ad up there,
Okay.
babe. I'm trying to find my ad here.
Okay, let's see.
I thought I had the right page. Eureka!
There we go. This is what we're going to talk about.
Page 61, Stacey. Get your eyes on. All right. Yeah, look at this. Look at the fashions. Look at the 1920s fashions.
Wow.
Yeah. National Cloak and Suit Company.
Okay.
Style specialist for 36 years.
Okay.
And these were actually, it says, let your national style book be your guide to correct style. Let it bring you the biggest savings. But look at her coat.
That's fabulous with the fur up around her neck.
It's
and
great.
the fur at the bottom.
I have a mad love affair with furs.
Yes.
With furry things. Not real fur. Don't throw anything on me. Not real fake fur.
Right.
But
This
I
day
bet
and
that
age, you
was
can do it all
real.
fake. I mean, back then, they didn't have the knowledge or capability how to produce a fake one, maybe, so they were all real, but...
And look how slim fitting that dress is. This was actually on the outfit, National Cloak and Suit Company, had two locations. It was on West 24th Street in New York City and on Independence Avenue in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, you know who that reminds me of in that picture? Did you ever watch Downton Abbey? And that looks like Mary.
Oh,
it looks like Mary from
gosh.
Downton Abbey, like in the 20s. She wore those gowns, and she was so lovely and elegant, and it just makes me think of her. Had that short, dark hair.
Yeah, you probably. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love Downton Abbey.
Oh my gosh!
But like in the picture, like there, I mean, like there's buttons all up and down her sleeves, and then there's like the low riding waist, and it's got like a little fan.
I can't see what the words say. Does it give a price for that, or
La
no?
la la la. Women's dresses from $2.98 to $25.
Ooh.
Women's coats $5 to $47.50.
Wow. Okay, so today it's not uncommon to buy a coat that's around $47 or
Right.
$50.
Yeah.
And So back then, people were paying $47 for a coat.
I bet
a fur coat.
I bet that coat. Yeah,
that's a lot of money in the early 1920s, I think.
Yeah. What is millinery?
Millinery.
Yeah. What is
the
that?
millinery? That is people that make hats.
Ooh, you can get a hat from 79 cents to $6.49.
Okay.
Woo.
Wow.
Women's house dresses. From 85 cents to $2.49.
That would probably be what I would wear.
Okay.
I like the elegant stuff, but where would I wear it?
Right. Well, and the thing about it is like the house dress. Is that like to our today's moo-moo?
Moo-moo.
Yeah, today's moo-moo.
I don't know. It might have just been like more of a casual
I don't know,
dress.
but I'm in love with that. And those short stories, I'm gonna be reading some of those.
Yeah, I want to read them too.
I can't. I'm not a strong reader by no means. My mind never shuts down. It just goes and goes and goes. But I'm not. But I can do short stories. But like people are like, oh, do you like to read? It's like short stories and things. But like if I said to read a book, I think I've read one book, and that was a Danielle Steele. And I was
well, that's where you went wrong, girl, because her books, they're okay. But if you had a book that you just loved, you could read a chapter every night, and you just haven't read the right book. Yeah, that's why I tell people that aren't readers.
Strong readers.
You just haven't found the right book.
Yeah. Well, we have a big show today.
We do, so let's just jump into it because I feel like we may not get everything covered.
I'm kind of agreeing with that.
So on today's episode, we are talking about churches, the first churches in Flora, mainly Flora. I know that, there's other towns in the county, and we do want to get to them on another episode, yes. The first churches in Louisville, Clay City, Xenia. We're not neglecting you. It's just there's so much to cover. I feel like this is what episode, like 11 or 12?
I think this is 11.
And we haven't even scraped the surface
once again
of what we want to cover on this show. Yeah. I mean, there are so many things to talk about.
Absolutely. So people are always like, oh, but how long can you guys keep going? Oh, we can go till we die. Yeah. Because seriously, because
every week there's something.
And I don't know if I don't know if our guests have noticed, but we're kind of talkers.
Yeah, we like to talk.
It's my greatest gift, I think, that God gave me. Well, let's just go. I'm going to dive right in with the wrong church. I'm going with the First Baptist Church.
First Baptist Church.
First Baptist Church is known as the First Church of Flora. Well, and I have a little bit of love affair with the First Baptist Church because my husband actually is the pastor at what was the First Baptist Church, but now they go by the First Church of Flora.
Okay.
So,
First Church of Flora.
First Church of Flora was the First Baptist Church, and it actually it had 2 different locations.
Okay.
And what I love about the churches is the churches all started how Jesus expected us to start, in homes.
In homes, okay.
Small groupings and stuff in homes. But we all know we covered Samuel White already.
Yes, we talked about him last week. He was the founder of Flora. Yes. 1954, for those that missed that episode.
Yes, and Samuel White was a Baptist.
Okay.
So the first founding father of Flora is going to start his favorite church, and apparently he was Baptist.
Okay.
So, but and they were all here. Christians were here, Methodists were here, but the Baptist church is the one that actually got their first originating start. So what happened? It was in the First Baptist Church of Illinois. Had its beginning, its early life rooted in the beginning, in early life of the town itself, and the original town of Flora was laid out. Okay, so Samuel White gives land to his brother.
Okay,
and his brother was William White.
Right.
And, well, first of all, let me start off. They lived on Vincennes Avenue. Vincennes Avenue. A lot of these people lived on Vincennes Avenue.
Okay.
So Samuel White, his brother William White, they get together in William White's house on Vincennes Avenue, and they start the organized Baptist church.
Okay.
So they're all meeting in the homes and everything. Okay. Meetings were held in the home of William White. Although conducted by the Baptists, everyone was welcome. Mr. and Mrs. William White were the parents of the first child born in Flora. She was named Harriet White.
Okay, the first.
Later married to Mr. Price.
Okay, the first baby born in Flora.
Yes.
Harriet. Why don't we have a Harriet Street?
We should have a Harriet Street.
We should.
So that's where that's where the Baptist Church originated, on Vincennes Street in the home of the Whites.
And she grew up to be an adult and got married, and married a guy that eventually became the mayor of Flora.
Yeah, George Price.
George Jefferson Price.
George Jefferson Price.
Moving on up.
To the side. Yeah. So now we're in the homes of everybody. Well, and everybody's welcome. So now, people are starting to congregate, because back then, churches weren't like what we are now. I mean, the churches, when they met for hours. Mm-hmm. I mean, their church services when they had revival, went on for months.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and we're
serious
growing.
business. Mm-hmm.
So in October, 7 months later, this is where, see, they're a short period of time, because the other churches that start their congregations, they're like around for like a few years before they actually do their stick building churches, and they all start out stick built. So, but 7 months later, in October, the members decided to erect a house of worship. So this is when Samuel White donated the land over on 2nd Street. Is it 2nd or 3rd Street?
It's 3rd Street.
It's 3rd Street over there. And that's where so they built a...
right where it is now.
Right where it is now.
Okay.
Now, that's not the original building, because back then they built stick buildings. Okay? So they decided to erect a house of worship. So Samuel donated the land for the building. And then the most churches says, like I said, this church has been there since, well, that site location's been 1854. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they started in March 12th, and then in October, that's when they did their stick building right there in that land. Okay, and they built this. They were growing so fast that this stick building was actually large enough to house 400 people.
Wow.
400
That's
people.
That's big.
That is, because Beth and I go to the Christian church, and what do we?
Well,
my goodness,
when it had pews in it, it seated a little close to 300 or a little over.
Right. So yeah, so this stick building was
bigger than that.
Was bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. And stick building just means it was made out of lumber.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stick builder. I guess we should do. But the thing about like all the it's kind of like when you read about the churches, it's almost like biblical, because they're like all the reverends. It lists literally every single pastor in every one of these churches.
We're not going to list all of those.
And we're not going to list, otherwise.
Just know there were some great ones.
There were some really
There were
good,
some that didn't stick around very long.
Yeah, there were
some that stayed a long time.
Movers and the shakers.
Yep.
And before we're gonna take a commercial break here in a little bit, but the church is also noted for another first. Miss Eva Campbell and Mr. Robert Pruitt were the first couple to be married in Flora. Their ceremony was performed by Reverend I.H. Elkins in the Little Frame Building.
Aw, the Pruitt, Mr. and Mrs. Pruitt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in that little stick frame building, the
first wedding.
The first wedding. So the First Baptist Church, their congregation has the first.
They got it going on.
They do. Yeah, they were the first church, the first baby born, and then now they've got the first wedding performed.
Okay.
And then there's a wonderful little story about the Baptist women, which I'm beginning to like them more and more after I read this story. They were some go-getters.
Okay.
But
Tell me about that when we come back.
Oh, I sure will.
Okay, we'll be back.
At your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville, you can count on experts to have the solutions to keep you running on the road or in the field. More than just your car, the Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville carry a large inventory of Napa products for farms, heavy trucks, and just about everything that moves. Experienced associates understand your needs and are ready to help with the perfect part at a great value. That's Napa Know-How at your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville. Briscoe Surplus Sales on the northeast edge of Flora is your one-stop do-it-all shop. Looking for rugged boots and footwear from great brands like Lacrosse, Rocky, and Carolina? They're there. How about top-notch small engine parts and service? Briscoe Surplus Sales has it. Whether you're wiring your switches or switching your wiring, Briscoe Surplus Sales has the solution and the know-how to help you get the job done right the first time. Briscoe Surplus Sales, your one-stop do-it-all shop.
We like technology at Flora Savings Bank. Here's what you can accomplish in our mobile banking app in less than 30 seconds. See account balances in your transactions, set up an account alert, make a transfer between accounts, get an alert text message about your transfer, pay a bill, turn your debit card off and then back on. It all happens in the palm of your hand with our free My Bank to Go app. Search My Bank to Go in the App Store or Google Play and give mobile banking a try. Flora Savings Bank, member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Doors, paint, windows, electrical, plumbing, and much more. Oh yeah, give me all your guns too.
John Lucas.
What?
You better be dreaming about all the stuff we sell here at Zink Building Center.
Oh, I would. These buildings in Louisville on Route 45. It's a cool place.
Okay, welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. Today we're talking about churches in Flora, the first churches and their congregations, and every week we just pick a different topic to talk about, and today it's churches. So we're right in the middle of talking about the Baptist church.
Yes, the Baptist
Tell me
church.
more.
Okay, so we are now the Baptist. Sam White has donated the land on the corner of 3rd Street there, and we've got a stick frame building. We're moving, we're shaking, life is good, but
okay.
the weather in Illinois can be quite trying, so the stick building, you know, they don't last real long. So time is not too kind on the frame buildings. So, but it was there for 40 years.
Oh, well, that's
Okay.
That's okay. That's pretty
Okay,
good.
so this is great.
back then.
This is the greatest story ever.
Okay. I'm excited.
It is. I cannot. So it was necessary to plan for a larger, more adequate building. So according to historical data, the women were the leaders in this movement. One of their outstanding projects, of course, was to publish a cookbook in 1893, which contained choice recipes of prominent women of the county. The expense of publishing, the expenses of the publishing was met by advertisements and merchants of the county. So when we did our cookbook episode, you know, it had all the advertisements in there. Okay, well, you know, you're going to build a building, right?
Right.
And so that's a lot of cookbooks. Okay, so money was coming in slowly but surely. Okay, nothing was really happening, only talk. So the men were like, oh, well, we're going to do this. The ladies are selling the cookbook. We're just going to hang out here. Well, apparently for the Baptist women, that wasn't good enough. So one night in October 1896,
okay.
4 ladies took their spades and a lantern, walked to the site for the new building on that property, okay, and began to dig the foundations. Those ladies were Mrs. J.L. Black,
Okay.
with her niece Helen McCollum, later Mrs. Jack Baylor, Mrs. William Fortner, Mrs. George Price, so these are names, Mrs. T.J. Friend, with their children, no men. Their faith was justified. Under the leadership of their pastor, Reverend H.B. Webster, the new structure was completed and dedicated in February 1899. The balance of $900 was contributed to that day, and the membership of about 100 entered its new phase free of debt. So the men are like, yeah, ladies, sell some more cookbooks. Let's get this done. The ladies are like, oh, no, where's my lantern? So those ladies went with their children and started digging.
Holy cow.
Digging for that.
They were serious.
So, like, the structure you see now is the structure we're talking about. So you can just imagine these ladies they'd had enough, and they had enough talk, and they were like, "We're done. We're going to dig our foundation." And
Wow.
they did. They went out and dug that foundation.
Holy cow.
How great is that?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's admirable.
Yeah. So then they
Strong
dug the
women.
foundation. The men probably got on board, and bada bada boom. You got the beautiful building you have now. And then in 1920, now we're in 1927, a dining room and kitchen was completed.
Okay.
So that structure that you have now. And then on the 75th anniversary of the building, I don't know if at the anniversary of the Baptist church, they did the illuminated sign that you have out front was erected. So, yeah,
Wow.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'm digging those Baptist women, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So that's the, started in a home.
Sometimes you just get tired of waiting on a man. You got to go make things
You just
happen.
got to go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They started in a home, erected a little stick building, decided they were growing by leaps and bounds, and here we are. Now we've
Yeah.
got a church, and then we got where they, that church still stands today, and that's why I say, be careful what you're tearing down.
Right.
These buildings are there forever. I mean, it's solid as a rock.
Yeah.
I love it. So that's the first church of Flora.
Okay.
Originally known as the Baptist
Let's
Church.
take a look at that church in the early days. Like, okay, so
I wish that house was still there.
yeah, was that the
Parsonage.
Yeah, the parsonage.
Yeah, the parsonage was built. I didn't really elaborate on parsonages.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's the
Yeah.
brick building. There is the same one. That's not the stick built building. That's the one we have now.
Where the ladies went and dug
there.
the foundation. Yeah, and that temple's still there. I mean, that's where it's at. But yeah,
Here's another view.
there it is. Yep.
That was in 1910. This view of the Baptist church.
Yep.
And what I like about these pictures is if you look like over the doorways, that trim in the windows, that
Yes.
I don't know what you call that, but
They
you see it in a lot of these pictures.
Yeah, they have a beautiful stained glass window in there,
Oops,
and
we
boy,
saw that one.
when the
Let's look at this
sun
one.
comes in, yeah, that stained glass window right there.
Yep. See
When
how
the-
they changed it though?
Yeah.
They put the stained
Yeah.
glass in and they took out those other things.
Yeah. So this would have been, I wonder what year that would be, because that's the illuminated came in. But boy, when the sun streams through that.
This one's 1960. You can see
there's the sign.
The sign is moved. This is 1960.
Yeah, and that's the originated, so that would have been after the.
So I would say that this one is probably more like the 30s or 40s.
I would say so. Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, very pretty. So,
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
Let's jump into the Christian church.
Let's
You want to talk
go
about
to
that
the
one?
Christian. Let's talk about the Christian church.
Well, what I took some notes on this one. So
Okay.
what I found out is that the Christian church claims that they had the first church services in the Harder Township.
Oh,
So
okay.
they were a mile outside of Flora.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they don't, I don't think, consider themselves the first church in Flora because at that time they weren't really in Flora. They were,
Right.
even though it was only a mile out, they were probably out by Julian's. I don't know.
Yeah, I bet so. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
somewhere out there. But they had church services that started in a log schoolhouse about a mile west of the bank corner in this little log building by a man that they called Father Schooley. Is this what you have?
Yes, I read about Father Schooley.
Yes, and around-
Preacher Schooley.
Around 1855. Now, he lived in Clay City, but he drove a wagon or a horse. Sometimes he just came on horseback over to preach at the first, what they were calling the first Christian church. The Kinnemans were a big part of this church. Now, we haven't talked about them on the show yet, but we are going to because they had some big roles in stories in the early days.
Yes.
The thing about this church is all the families would come, they would travel by wagons, and they would all bring their lunches, and then they would have their church service, and then they would all sit around like the yard if the weather was nice and eat lunch together. And what does that sound like? Little House on the Prairie. I keep talking about this on every episode, but really they did that on Little House on the Prairie.
They did do that.
You know,
Yeah.
not really in the books, but on the TV show it happened. And
I mean, they seriously had an old-fashioned potluck every Sunday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when I first was reading this about how the gentleman came from Clay City, I mean, I just closed my eyes and I just picture clip, 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 clip,
Oh,
clip,
yeah.
just all from Clay City to preach at the church.
Yeah.
I love his last name, Schooley.
Yeah, Schooley.
Preacher Schooley.
Yeah, and so around that time, the population of Flora. Oh, let's see. Well, no, I'm skipping ahead. So a year later, so this would have been like 1856, I believe. They moved a mile further into town. They moved to West 3rd Street.
Yes.
By
Yes.
this time, the population of Flora was around 100 people. And when they needed to do baptisms, they went to Hanging Rock, out by
Yes.
Hanging Rock.
Yes.
And
Explain to people where Hanging Rock
so
is at.
Hanging Rock is about a mile west of Flora and probably 3 miles south of Flora.
South of where Lincoln School.
Yeah, so if you turn by where the old Lincoln School was, it's Hanging
head
Rock
south
is down
out
there.
there.
There's a creek that had a big rock that was hanging, and now it's kind of fallen, but right, it has fallen, or at least, most of it. Anyway, so that's where they went for baptisms, and if it was icy, and it was a few times, they just got out in it with their hatchets and their
Broke it loose.
and there was a preacher at the time called Elder Williams, and someone once complained to him that the water was too cold for a baptism, and he said, and I quote, "Where the heart is warm, snow and ice will do no harm."
That's right. I love that.
And then those poor wet Christian men and women that just got baptized had to get back into their horse and on their wagon and then ride a mile home in the freezing weather. It's amazing they even lived through it.
Well, since we're talking about this, I want to mention real quick the songbooks. They didn't have songbooks back then.
Yes.
And they didn't have pianos and organs. So they literally did pitch their tunes with a tuning fork.
Okay.
And it's so funny. And they sang their hymns by memory. And the two of their favorite songs to sing, How a Firm Foundation. Okay. And this is why they love this next song, because when they got baptized in the freezing cold water,
what was it?
I am a soldier of the cross.
Okay. Yeah, you had to be a soldier.
You had to be a soldier to get dunked in freezing cold water.
Yeah. So they built a new building in 1858. So this is about only 3 years after they started. They're already building like their third building. And that was on the north side of East 2nd, west of Mill Street.
Yes.
And it was a frame building, and it cost them $2,000 to build that.
I know. It's insane, isn't it?
Yep. And then they were in that building for 42 years.
Well, and they said when the Christian church built that building, it was supposed to be the best building.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. All accounts was like that building was a number one top-notch building. Yeah.
Well, they stayed there until the very last founding father of the church died. That was Henry Kinnaman.
Yeah.
And once he passed away, I think they were waiting on him to go. They're like, all right, time to build a new church. Like old Henry wasn't ready for us to move on, but now he's gone and new building. That was in 1902.
Yeah.
So they started rebuilding at the present site where it is now on the corner of West 4th and Main Street.
Yeah, I'm sure we have pictures of those, but let's wait till we.
Yeah, we'll wait a minute.
We'll wait. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's talk a little bit about the church. So, it had 3 different locations. So we start out in a crude log cabin.
Yes.
And then we moved to
the east. What I say it was East 3rd or 4th?
East 3rd Street.
East 2nd.
East 2nd Street. I wonder what happened to that structure? Was that like the stick built structure?
West 3rd was next. So it was the log house, then West 3rd, then East 2nd, then where it is now. So
so it had 4 different
locations.
I wonder if any of those original buildings are still there, because I'm thinking, like there's not, because when we're talking churches, we're just hitting the big 3.
Yeah.
Your Christian church, your Methodist church, and we're going to talk about the Catholic church and the Baptist church. But when you look around, we are in the Bible Belt, so there are churches all over this place, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
Cuter than a little.
Yeah,
little
no, I don't
church.
think any of these other structures lasted. It said they were weakened. They were torn down, what I read. So the one that they built where it is now was a brick structure, and it was beautiful.
Oh,
and
I can't wait to
picture
show
of it
when
in
we
a
get
minute.
back from commercial. Oh.
Okay. Is it time for our commercial now?
Almost, but
okay.
How much did that cost to build?
I don't know that I wrote that down.
$46,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
it only lasted 20 years.
I know.
20 years
crazy?
and they built a brick building and it only lasted 20 years.
I'm not buying it.
What kind of masons were those?
I don't. Not my dad. Let's take a commercial.
If you're looking for a loan for your brand new home, call Clay County State Bank. If you want to transfer money so your future will look sunny, call Clay County State Bank. We got checking and savings and bill pay too.
An online banking, just ask our crew. For all your banking needs, we think you will agree.
Clay County State Bank is the place you need to be. Clay County State Bank.
At Clay City Banking Company, we're all on the same team, regardless of zip code. At home, work, school, or across the country, you can be part of our team with our cutting-edge mobile banking products. From your hand, you can check balances, transfer money, make deposits, and pay bills. Looking for a loan? We've got you covered with our mortgage, agriculture, commercial, and consumer loans. Join our team today. Clay City, Flora, Louisville, and Fairfield Banking Companies. We're the hometown banks, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
It's the weekend and your symptoms are worsening. The morning of a big meeting and you have a bigger sore throat. Ever experienced that urgency after picking up your sick child and your community health center has already closed? You will be able to connect to a provider at crhpc.org. Even if you have never been to CRHPC, you are welcome to utilize our services. Feel better after scheduling a video visit with CRHPC.
Tomorrow. Some fear the uncertainty it brings. Some trust the promise it holds. At Grinnell Mutual, we are always looking forward to tomorrow, growing and innovating. So even if the plans you have for the future aren't the same as the plans that the future holds for you, you can be ready. Because we'll be ready, like we have been for over 100 years. Trust in that. Trust in tomorrow. Talk to your mutual agent today.
Your local agent is on the square. Louisville, Clay County Farmers Mutual Insurance.
Okay, welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. Today we're talking about churches, and we are right in the middle of hearing about the Christian church.
Yes.
They've had a few locations.
We've had 4 different locations.
Yes.
Now we're in the corner where the building stands. But before we show the original pictures of the Christian church were spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
You want to throw up some of the pictures we have?
Let's see what we got here.
Let's see what we've taken.
Okay, this is 1907, so this would have been the brick structure that only lasted for for 20 years.
I find that hard to believe. Now,
I mean, isn't that strange?
It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful. Look how high up it goes, and it sits on the corner right there. So those corner steps would have been right directly out to the corner of Main and West 4th.
So this is the 3rd building.
Yes.
This is the 3rd structure. From what I understand, then, when we both attend the Christian church, they say that other building was just kind of built around that. But after looking at this...
There is an old staircase in the back that's kind of from the original, from that building.
I want that building back.
I want it too, and I'm so confused
that.
Why that looks like a really sturdy brick building, and why did it only last 20 years? I don't know. And look, it has a nice basement and the bells. To hear those bells. And look at that pretty round thing above the windows. Like, I guess it's stained glass. I can't tell for sure. But
yeah, it's gorgeous.
So this is another view of it.
Right.
This is 1913, but there's a lot of trees there for
all those beautiful.
That must be from a different angle.
It has to be from a different angle. You think? Yeah, I don't know, because then there's a house, the parsonage, because there was a parsonage built, because there's a house right across this. That must be. I wonder if that's the back angle.
I wonder, and maybe the back had the round thing above the windows too.
Yeah, that's kind of. It's with all the trees. It's kind of hard to see.
Yeah, this one was labeled 1913, but maybe it was later.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't know. And then here's 1935.
Right.
So this is.
See, and I would rather have that building. I mean, that's not.
Yeah.
I mean, my original. Of course, you and I love the old structures.
Yeah,
but that one's pretty.
Yeah, this one is Bedford limestone, and this is what they replaced the brick one with. This one was built in 1922, on the same lots, and there was a minister there by the name of C.L. Doty. He came in 1924, and he was had the record for the most baptisms and the most marriages. He stayed for 19 years, and he was loved by everyone. But he resigned due to health. And then there was a whole line of other ones, Yannicka, Willis, Roy Blackmore. And during those years, that congregation added over 700 people through all those years.
Yeah, the Christian church probably had the biggest congregation of all of them.
So by 1952, they needed to modernize their building.
They didn't need to.
Well, they thought they thought they didn't. And the chairman of the building committee was Earl Arbuthnot. Remember when we talked about the Arbuthnot's?
Yes,
that was on the top of that Scudamore building.
That's right.
Arbuthnot. He was the chairman of the building commission, and so when they built the building that is there now. Well, no, that's still the Bedford limestone.
I love that. That almost looks like a courthouse.
Yeah, it does.
Boy, that's pretty. Where's those windows?
Yeah, they're gone. They're long gone.
They're long
so
gone.
That's not a picture. I don't think I have a picture of the current building. But
okay. Well, you can drive by and see it.
It looks more like a fort, I think, than a church.
It looks like an office building.
But it's very mid-century modern. And we should love it because we love mid-century stuff.
We do.
But it's just it just kind of has that plain look that was common in the 1950s.
Yeah.
When it was built, it was really cool at the time, but built in 1952 for $200,000.
I know. My goodness, you can't even replace the steps for $200,000 now.
But they had great revivals there.
Oh, yeah.
Revivals that lasted a long time.
We both got married in that church.
We did. I got married there in 1999. And that's funny because on another episode, I was watching one of our episodes the other day, and I feel like I need to make a correction because I was like, yeah, I've been married for 22 years. I have not. I've been married for 24.
Oh, my. Good.
I don't know. Time flies.
Time does
all
fly.
the years blur together.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so.
That is, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, because Jim and I were married there in 1988.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't do math. So
yeah,
but yeah, I mean it happened. Well, I'll tell you what. If I had my pick of the three buildings, I'd have gone for 1903.
Yeah, me too.
1903, because I'm a Victorian all the way.
Oh, me too.
I love Victorian things.
Yes. Yeah.
So
but they've had some pretty buildings over the years.
Yeah, they have.
And they've had an interesting history. So they've been there a long time. So
they've been
really
around.
About almost the same as the Baptist. It's within months.
You know.
But the Baptists were in Flora at the time. First Christian was not. They were in the township, but they were not in Flora.
When it comes down to it, like, because in all accounts, whenever you, we can bicker about, but like I said, in all accounts, First Baptist Church, because like I said, Samuel White, the founder, was a Baptist, and so they started, and everybody starts, the Christians are the only one that didn't start in the homes. Methodists, we're going to talk about the Methodists, and they started in homes,
the Christians started in a log cabin building, but it was a schoolhouse.
Outside of.
Yeah, it was a schoolhouse.
Outside of that, but they all came about the same time. You're talking just within months of each other.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, because the Methodist...
we're going to do the Methodist next?
Yeah, let's go. Let's hit the Methodist here.
Okay.
Methodism began in Flora in the same year that the original town of Flora was surveyed in 1854. Okay. The Methodists also met in private homes. And once again, on Vincennes Street, the first church class of any record was held in the home of Noah B. Russell, located on Vincennes Avenue.
Everybody was on Vincennes Avenue.
I'm telling you.
That's the place to be.
So that's where they were at. So they were there in 54, and then in 56, they moved into their first frame schoolhouse. Once again, Little House on the Prairie.
Little House on the Prairie.
Built in Flora, and it was located on West 3rd and North Elm. And they were in that building for about 10 years.
In North Elm.
So North Elm, you got to get your bearings of where North Elm is.
That would be just north of Dairy Queen. So if you went straight out of Dairy Queen, past Stanford Marketing, and went up to 3rd Street, which would be...
And it was right on the corner of West 3rd and North Elm.
So that would be right there by where the poultry house was later, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably a different corner.
Probably a different corner, yeah.
Cool.
So how neat is that?
Yeah.
So that's where they were there for 10 years. So now the Methodist Church is, is moving and a shaking. And then in 1863 to 64, this is funny because I started out in the Methodist Church, and I went to Clay City, and it's like a lot of the smaller, they did charges. So like we had Clay City, Shouse Chapel, Mount Zion, New Harmony, and what's the other one down by the Sheltons? I just went blank. Bethel. No. I can't remember. I'll have to remember. But there were 5 churches, and we were part of a charge. So, like, what that is like when one pastor took care of all 5 churches. They had one main church, but then they went to the other. Because, like, Mount Zion, a beautiful little church on the hill going to Clay City.
Yes.
And, that's down. Shouse Chapel was a cute little out in the country. Now, New Harmony and the other one, I cannot believe that escapes my memory. That's going to drive me crazy. And Clay City, and then, but they still have their churches. But I didn't realize that was a charge. But apparently, back in 1863 and 64, Flora was connected with the Mount Erie charge.
Oh.
So they were doing charges, the Methodist was. I just thought that was something new for today, 20 years ago.
My mind is still on that address on 3rd. Because, the other Methodist church building is still on 3rd. And it would be right there near that corner if that house was not there. So maybe that is what they're talking about, that or their parking lot.
Could be.
Are both right there.
Yeah.
I think. Is that Elm, though? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll have to. Well, what are we going to do today? We'll probably drive by there.
The sad thing is I drive by it every day, and I have not paid any attention.
So then in 63 to 64, they worked really hard for raising money to erection of a church in Flora. And the sum was $3,000 was subscribed and $1,000 was collected under the pastorate of Reverend R.H. Peter.
Okay.
The church on West 3rd Street was built during the spring and summer of 1865. Pastor S.L. Ray oversaw the completion during the summer of 1866. No record can be found of its dedication, but we're not in the location where the church is at now. Right now we're on West 3rd Street.
Yeah, that's the one, right.
That's
where that other building still is.
Yeah.
You know, there's 2 Methodist churches in Flora.
Well, yeah, so I wonder if like then the Flora Methodist went and built this newer building. This one was struck by lightning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and now that it kind of shakes my memory a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so so the problem is it was struck by lightning.
Yeah.
And
okay. So what year are you on?
Well, we're in 1866.
Okay.
Okay, I got to find la. So they were there for, you know what the pastor's salary was?
No.
$700.
A year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In around that time, in the 1860s, a pastor's salary was $700. And then the first parsonage in 1871 and 72, the first parsonage was built under a Reverend Marbury, and the old church was improved. A tower was built in front, large enough for a vestibule on the ground floor of the pastor's study, and above it there was a tall spire pointed heavenward. So on 3rd Street, so they're redoing the church.
Okay.
So now they're building on the big. What is a vestibule?
A vestibule?
Is that where the bell? Would that be the bell tower?
No, I think that it's like another word for foyer, isn't it?
Okay. Well, I don't know. Somebody will probably tell us.
Somebody will tell us, and that's another thing we need to do an episode on, is because I've received a few comments and corrections that we need to read off at some point. I don't think we have time in this episode.
We probably don't.
No.
So
we are listening. So thank you to those that are responding.
In 1896, the 3-story section of the large church building was struck by lightning and burned, leaving a 2-story section that served Flora for many more years. So the entire church did not burn down.
Oh, they were able to save some of it.
They were able to save some of it.
So around that time in 1897, the United Methodist women made a quilt.
Yes.
And they had 450 signatures on them, on it.
I think we know where that quilt's at.
Do we?
Is that one?
No, it's not this one.
Oh.
But I'm going to tell you.
Oh.
So this was common back then for people to do signature quilts as fundraisers. So the women would, and not just the women, men in the church, everybody, you could pay 10 cents. And then you could sign your name onto a quilt block, and then they would embroider over that. And then that was turned into the quilt, and then the quilt was raffled off. And then that raised money probably for their damage to repair their church from the fire. But that signature quilt was donated back to the Methodist Church in 1978. I don't know who currently has that quilt. Maybe it's in their building. But the quilt behind me is a very similar quilt, although this one does not have 450 signatures on it. This one was made in Centralia, Illinois, and my great-grandmother, Molly Felton's signature is on that one.
That is beautiful, too. I love that quilt.
So that's my quilt. It doesn't have anything to do with the Methodist quilt, but I'm just used it today to show that it's this is a signature quilt, and you can see in the center of each one of those quilt blocks is a signature that they would write on there with a pen.
Wow.
And then they would sew over it. So they're all
we need
different.
to take a quick commercial break, but then we'll get back to talking about where the Methodists went after the lightning strike.
Okay, we'll be back.
Do you bowl like this? That's great. Do you bowl like this? That's great too. That's because whether you're a pro or you just want to have a lot of fun, at Pegel's Silver Dollar Lanes, we have a lane for you. We have galaxy bowling, gaming for kids and adults, Joe's Pizza, a full bar, darts, pool, and fresh and clean bowling shoes. Boy, does that smell nice. So come on down to Pegel Silver Dollar Lanes in Effingham, where we have a lane for you.
My name is Robin Stanford. I own Stanford Marketing. It's a promotional products business along with an embroidery business. And we do custom hats, t-shirts, anything, you name it, we can make it. People like that we do stuff in-house and we can actually make things here and that we're not contracting the work out to other places. We never say no. We always try to find a way to do it. If anybody can do it, we can do it. We are hardworking women, that is for sure. Come to Stanford Marketing in Flora for all your custom and promotional needs.
The insurance specialists have options to tailor to your needs at CSI Insurance Brokers. Experienced insurance brokers at CSI are skilled with all types of insurance plans and policies and represent many companies, including Safeco Insurance. You'll benefit from their detailed expertise, unbeatable premiums, and commitment to customer service. CSI Insurance Brokers and Safeco Insurance Company, providing affordable rates on quality insurance since 1952.
For over 50 years, at your locally owned and operated Royal King Supply in Salem and Olney, we've helped you and your neighbors enjoy an easy country lifestyle. We carry the most thorough sporting goods department around with a huge variety of hunting and fishing gear, camping equipment, and a variety of firearms for any need. Our team is here to help you find whatever you need. Open every day, it's Royal King in Salem and Olney, your locally owned farm and home store.
Okay, welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. Today we're talking churches. We're right in the middle of talking about the Methodist Church.
Yes, which is beautiful.
Yes.
I love that church. It's absolutely beautiful. But we are talking about its third location.
Okay.
Okay. And unfortunately, there was a storm. So a storm came and it caught part of the building on fire. This is really interesting. Let me read this to you. It was during the storm that lightning ran in on an electrical light hanging over the oak pulpit in the sanctuary of the church. The lightning caused an inverted V to be burned into the left side of the pulpit. According to Mrs. Ernest Taylor, her father, James Russell, removed the charred wood area from the pulpit with a wood chisel and carefully inlaid new wood to mend it. This pulpit was refinished and restored by Mrs. Sally Bice and Mrs. John Tanner in 1974. The pulpit is used in the present Methodist Church sanctuary as a lectern. Isn't that great? It remains as one of the few existing pieces of church furniture from the West 3rd Street Church.
Wow.
That gives me chills.
That's really cool. So lightning came in, zapped it, and somebody chiseled it out the burnt part, and then two women took it and refinished it. Good for them, little woodworkers.
Right? I just think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we've had this. We're going to move into our fourth building, which is the building where it is now, which I think is spectacular. And I'll tell you what, talking about church bells, nothing makes me happier than walking to any church and hear those church bells on Sunday.
I want to hear the bells all the time.
The Baptist church rings their bell still. Oh,
love it.
But I think the Methodist is more like chimey. Oh, yeah, it's beautiful.
They have different. I don't know how they program it or anything, but they have to. It plays. Sometimes it plays Victory in Jesus.
Oh, it's fantastic. We'll have to ask the pastor there is good friends of Jim and I, Mark and Kim Smith. And I'm going to call Mark later on today. I want to see that burnt piece of wood. I want to see what it's at, where it's at now. So Mark Smith, I'm going to be calling you in about 2 hours. So
let's take a look at a picture.
Let's look at some pictures.
Oh. Okay, so this is in 1937, and even in 1937, it looked almost exactly like how it looks today.
Isn't that
not
beautiful?
Much changes. When you have a solid building like that, there's no need to change anything.
Look at that. That is grand.
Yeah,
that
is
grand.
Beautiful.
And they have beautiful stained glass windows, too.
This one is one of the earlier structures, and I don't have a date for this one. But this is one of their earlier structures that did not stand the test of time.
That's probably on
3rd Street.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what, Beth? You know I bet that is kind of without that top part gone. There is that big brick building. Doesn't that look like the big brick building over there on that you're into town? What kind of like in that area on 3rd Street? You know, like when you go over that.
Kind of. Yeah.
I don't know. We may have to go by there because it sits right on that corner.
Yeah, I don't know. And then here's another view of what I liked about this one is the stop sign on the corner. It looks so old. This is like a modern picture of it, but
isn't that gorgeous? Yeah. So then the cornerstone of the present church building was laid at a ceremony of dedication on Tuesday, April 28, 1914. This building was completed and dedicated on Sunday, December 6, 1914, and remains the church home today. The stained glass windows in the sanctuary of the church were purchased from the Jacoby Art Glass Company of St. Louis, Missouri.
Wow.
August 15, 1914, for the sum of $825.
So all of those, let's take a look at those.
Oh,
Again, so all of those beautiful stained glass windows, even the big one there with the Jesus on the side, on the
$825.
Oh my gosh!
Okay, this next one's for you,
so
Beth.
Cool.
The pews in the sanctuary were purchased from the American Seating Company of Chicago, Illinois, for the sum of $811.50.
Wow!
And were dedicated on October 30th, 1914.
That's so cool.
Is it? Well, in my house, like when you go up our stairs, I don't know if you've noticed, but like when I was talking about the Methodist churches, like the Shouse Chapel, when they tore it down, they sold a lot of their stained glass windows. So I bought one of stained glass window, then had somebody box it in. So when you walk up my staircase, it's lit. Every night. I love that stained glass window.
I bet.
I seriously,
beautiful.
I'm one of those type of people. I always told Jim, I said, if the house ever catches on fire, I'm going to grab Sassy, you grab the stained glass window.
I don't have a stained glass window to grab, but I'm hoping the children now are old enough to get themselves out. I'm grabbing the quilts.
I don't know. I think I said that after the boys were gone. It's like, okay. But and I know Brian and Jody Pride bought a window too, and I think they had one boxed in too. But it's beautiful. I turn it on. It's just that beautiful Shouse Chapel stained glass window. They're spectacular.
Yeah. Well, we're about out of time for today, so I want to jump in and talk about the Catholic Church.
Okay.
So it also started in, guess which year?
What?
1854.
No way.
Just like all of the others.
Yes.
And it was the first Mass was said in a home of Louis Valbert. And that was by Father Joseph Fisher. Now, Louis Valbert, or Louis, I assumed was related to the Valberts, but then I have some of their family tree, and honestly, I did not see him in there, and he is not buried at Elmwood. So I'm not sure which he's probably buried at the Catholic cemetery. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the connection there. But then later, the Masses were said in the J. Haggerty home. They did it once a month. And then in 1865, they started having them in the Sylvester Ryder home. And I think we talked a little bit about Sylvester Ryder when we talked about naming of the streets on that episode.
We did, because I mentioned Sylvester Stallone.
Yes, Sylvester. When I think of Sylvester, I think of the cab driver in The Bishop's Wife, my favorite Christmas movie. Do you know that one with Cary Grant and Loretta Young?
Oh, yeah, but I love it as the preacher's wife when Whitney Houston took it over.
No. The Bishop's Wife.
I've seen that one. Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah, no. So, anyways, there was a cab driver in that named Sylvester, and it makes. I bet Sylvester Ryder looked like that cab driver.
I thought you were going to say Sylvester the cat.
Oh,
I thought put it down.
Yeah, no, I don't think of him either. But anyway, so the Sylvester Ryder family lived on what is now Ryder Street, and that's why it was named Ryder Street. But and then in 1866, they built a building on East Maple, and this is seated 125 people. And then that same year, Louis Valbert, or Louis, I'm not sure how he pronounced it, he donated 2 acres of his farm for burial ground. So that's where the Catholic cemetery is. So that's where
down on Blue Mound.
Down on Blue Mound.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that.
Yep. So then, and fast forward to February of 1878, lots 3, 4, 5, and 6 there on Main Street were donated by Sylvester and Ann Ryder. And then in May of 1880, the small church that they had built on East Maple was moved to the present, where 9th and Main Street were right almost exactly in those same lots where the Catholic Church is now.
They actually moved the building.
They moved it from East Maple all the way to there. And East Maple would be, where is East Maple? Down.
East Maple's on south end of town.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's where the senior citizens.
Yeah, around the senior citizens.
Where the seniors, because it's on the corner of Maple and South Main.
Yeah. Yep. So they moved it all the way across the tracks and everything to where it is on Main Street. And they also moved the rectory, and the rectory was a 2-story building.
Wow.
So they moved both of those buildings.
That's hard to believe.
They established a school there in 1888. They had 31 to 64 students. That building cost $300, and they just had lay teachers. They did not have Catholic nuns at that time teaching. They just had lay teachers. But one of them, her name was Louise Willian, and she went to a convent in Milwaukee and became Sister Aloysius.
So we had one nun come out of...
Yes, out of the people that were original teachers. But sadly, that building burned down on Christmas Day in 1892. How sad.
Oh, my.
You know, I've heard of other churches that have burnt on Christmas Day, and I just don't. It's so sad. I don't know if it's because it's so freezing cold and something.
Satan.
I don't know. Satan. Yeah.
I'll show you.
Destroyed by fire.
By fire.
Christmas Day, 1892. But so then they rebuilt, of course, in 1893. It was a red brick building, and it was more on the corner of 8th and Main. So it was kind of right where they are now because they had a lot of lots, but it's not exactly in the same location as it is now. But that building seated 200 people, and it cost them $8,720 to build. So prices were going up.
They are going up.
In 1896, they bought bells. So there was bells going on all over town, I bet, at these churches.
Can we have that back, please?
1897, they bought an organ. They got electricity in 1903. But then in 1919, they built a brand new school. And in 1954, now we're fast forward quite a bit, and I know I'm going through this fast, but they had their last mass in their brick church because the building was cracked. And they condemned it. But this is cool because then services were held at the Town Theater. What is now Nostalgia Theater. So because their building had become condemned, the Spalding family, who were owners of it at the time, were they the original owners?
They are the original owners. Yep.
Excuse me. They said, "Hey, come have mass over at our church, at our building, at our Town Theater." So,
I do remember one of the Catholics telling me that. I forgot, though. Thank you for that reminder.
So then they did, and then in 1955, they rebuilt the new school, the convent, the auditorium, the church, the whole shebang that we have now on North Main and 9th, and that building cost $126,040. It was dedicated in 1956. So that building looks kind of 1950s too.
It does. Does it? Do they still have a Catholic school? Do we have a Catholic school in town?
No, I don't believe they have a school there. No longer. But
but you can definitely tell. So that would have been when the Christian church built theirs, and so you can kind of see the similarities of that.
Yeah, that architecture, mid-century modern architecture.
Huh.
Well, let's just go right on to our thought of the day. What is our rules to live by?
Rules to live by today. It's very important. The past doesn't define your future happiness.
Definitely not.
It definitely does not. I
think some people struggle with that, though. People that have had difficult childhoods and stuff get kind of held back a little bit by their past. But you got to
move on.
You got to move on.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, well, I'm this way because of this, or I'm this way. It's like, you know what? We all make choices. It's very important for people. We make choices, and some of the choices that we make aren't good, and then you have to own up to the choices that you've made. I mean,
sometimes it takes therapy or something like that to get through some traumatic events, but overall, just know that you can choose your own happiness.
Yeah, and
choose to be happy.
And I'm a true believer in happiness comes from Jesus.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a great. I find it interesting that the day that we choose to do churches, it's like I feel like God's hands is in everything in my life, and it's just like, okay, so we're talking about churches and structures and beginnings and all this stuff that we love about churches, and then that's our rules to live by.
Yeah.
No matter where you come from.
We didn't plan that. I mean, the rules are numbered, so it just fell. It just fell on today.
It absolutely just fell right in there, and so the past does not define. I've had conversations with people that's had difficulty childhood. It's like who raised you does not define on who you are.
Right.
Just because this is what your upbringing was, and it's difficult for. It is. I think it's difficult for people, and we live in a world that's tough right now, and people get down and they get depressed, and
absolutely.
I mean, we don't want to go all church ladies on you.
No, we're not. That's not what the show is about. But we do. I do believe in choose to be happy.
Choose to be happy. You can either choose to be happy or grumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody said to me the other day, I can't remember where Jim and I were at, and they're like, "You have the most infectious smile."
Aww.
And I said, "Well, thank you. I smile a lot. I'm a pretty happy girl." But even me, I'm quite the actress, because even if I'm really, there's very few people that ever see me. And Beth's one of them that sees my bad side. But,
not very often.
Not very often, but I'll fake it till you make it. That's my other thing. It's better to, when you're at Walmart, and I don't care what your day is, smile at people. It's amazing what a smile will do.
Yeah. I actually talked a little bit about that this week on one of the things that I write. I write for a sewing website called nancysnotions.com. That's my regular day job, so if you wanted to check that out, you could. But I was writing a post about, someone that had critiqued one of my quilts years ago, over 20 years ago, and it really hurt my feelings, but I never let that person know
right.
it.
Don't bring me
faked
down,
it till I
Bruce.
faked it. Yeah.
Don't bring me down. Well,
Don't bring me down.
I'm sad now because guess what time it is? Time for us
Time
to go.
Thank you all for joining us so much. And we're on YouTube, by the way, with Beth and Stacey, or we're on Channel 100 Wabash Television.
All right.
So we'll see you next time.
All right. God
Thank
bless you. Have
Bye-bye.
a good day.